Being 6:30, we'll call this meeting to order. There is I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as emailed. What are the dates, the 2 sets of minutes? Brendan? There's an echo.
I move we accept the minutes. Do you want to do one at a time or?
Just, no. We will take them one at a time because there are amendments,
Yeah,
We have correction.
correct.
corrections to make.
Yeah.
I move we approve the 12/16/23 minutes.
And a second? Second by Steve DeLassio. Any changes or amendments?
Yes. In the 12/16 minutes, there's just a little bit below the first yellow highlighted line, it says current budget is 1.3. And then it talks about the total budget. I was confused by that until I realized it means it's version 1.3, so I would add the word version to that. Because years from now, somebody looks at this, they're not gonna know it's version 1.3.
Is Michael's point understood by all?
Yes.
Ahmed, we've got that reflected in the minutes. Okay, any further adjustments to make on 12/16's minutes? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed?
Do we have to do a roll call? Because Jamie's on the.
Yes, we do. Roll call vote for approval of the minutes. Hello, Jamie.
Hi, sorry about that. Meeting's up here today.
Thank you for joining us.
Hi, I'll say yes, Teague, yes.
Aaron, yes.
Katie, yes.
St. Pierre.
Spalding, yes. Varone, yes. Alessio, yes. Abstain.
If I can take a little chairman's liberty, I apologize. I had an introduction prepared and I jumped right into the meeting. So if I could take it one step back, I would just like to welcome everyone to this new year and a new season together. I wish to thank the administrators who have joined us here tonight. Thank you for being a part of the effort. And thank you for your work thus far. It has been exhaustive, all while taking care of your schools, your students, your grounds, and you do a fantastic job. Thank you for what you do.
Want to follow up?
Christopher?
I also wanted to just thank and recognize the work that the budget committee has done and the school board. There's it's a lot of hours that goes into this process on all ends, and we're all trying to achieve the same goal, which is sustainability for our organization with respect to the taxpayer, but also servicing the needs of our children. So I'd like to publicly thank you all for your participation in this process. And as community leaders, we are stronger together, and I think it's critically important that as community leaders, we continue to work collaboratively. We will revamp our process. We will look at the inefficiencies and continue to build a model that allows us to efficiently and successfully educate our children, considering all the factors. And, you know, it's not unique to Fall Mountain. This is something that we're experiencing across the country. And I'm happy to have some collaborative partners here in this work to help us achieve our aim here. So I just wanted to say that, and thank you for having us here tonight.
Thank you, Christopher. One of my favorite things about this new technology is going to be the ability to go back and listen over and over again to what you just said and what you'll say in the future. I look forward to our work together.
I'll do so.
Now, we'll move on in our agenda, and I'll take a motion for the 12/27/23 minutes. This is the discussion we had about the school resource officer. So there will be some amendments on the vote.
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Amanda Chafee, seconded by Michael Aaron. Open for discussion.
We need to amend the vote. Right now it says that I voted no, I voted yes. And I believe it says Jamie voted yes, and Jamie voted, I believe, voted no.
Jamie, do you confirm?
I believe Amanda's correct. When I read that, it didn't sit correctly with me.
thank you. That's my recollection as well. I did not take a note, but we got a thumbs up from Ahmed and it's so reflected in the minutes now. One thing I'm gonna try to do as chair is organize the minutes. It may have been unorganized to this point. I don't know which version is out there of certain minutes. There possibly might be one floating around that's unamended. There was a word. Steve, can you help me out?
Yeah, there was a word that
The
said,
bell buildings were neglected.
yeah, it was, the words were close, but they meant almost the exact opposite.
It was an interesting.
Yeah, it was, inefficient as opposed to ineffective or something like that.
Yeah,
I'd have
we'll
to- I'd
look
have to
back,
look at
we'll
that.
look back in the minutes.
Yeah, I'd
and
give
bring
him
that
that.
to,
Give them to Jordan,
we'll bring that to light at our next meeting and we'll make sure the right ones get sent to Misty, who takes care of everything. I truly believe that the glue that holds this district together has been Misty Bushy, and I appreciate everything she does in central office. Do I hear a motion? Kevin, to-
It's a motion, not a motion.
Yes. We appreciate Misty very much. Misty, if you're out there, thank you for what you do. Moving on. I still haven't pulled up my agenda.
We have to
Sloppy.
vote.
We have to vote to
Dave,
approve.
All right, thank you for keeping me in line.
No problem.
All those in favor say aye.
Can't do that.
no,
Yeah.
You have to have a roll call vote. 'Cause
Roll
Jamie-
call vote.
Yeah.
Jamie?
Teague, yes.
Aaron, yes.
JP, yes.
St. Pierre, yes.
Spalding, yes.
Varone, yes.
Delosio, yes.
That's fine, yes.
Okay, so move. Report of the administration. Item 3. Lori or Christopher, do you have any updates you wish to inform us about?
So I did just, before the meeting, send out, a couple of, additional documents that were requested that I did not have right before Christmas. I received them yesterday afternoon and today, and that was the detailed information about, work orders for facilities and detailed information for CTE, enrollment. So those items were attached to the email that I sent, as well as they have been, uploaded into the Drive folder. I want to address, I had received, is now the time to address the email? Okay.
Yes, it is.
So I received an email, with some questions from Steve Varone, specifically around the calculation of New Hampshire retirement. And, I think there were some FICA concerns. In the email, he did also explain that, he just wasn't sure if the payroll system was sophisticated enough to, take into account, pre-tax deductions such as your, insurance premiums, 401(k) contributions, New Hampshire retirement, FSA contributions and such. And, I thought that was a fabulous question, and I called the software company immediately, like I called them last night. And they couldn't answer my question. So, I've spent the day, working on vetting that. I started with myself and because I know what I have and, realized that the software does not take those things into consideration.
The budget development
The
module.
budget right, so our payroll's fine,
Has-
payroll takes that, right,
Be a big
that's,
problem.
that's fine.
Yeah.
But the budgeting module, the component that I use to, budget for positions and benefits
Mhm.
does not factor that in. So, what we've been doing this afternoon, my team, we each took pieces and then somebody's working on compiling the data so we can make the appropriate changes to the budget. While vetting that as well as your other questions, I discovered some additional anomalies in how the software is working. And I haven't encountered those before, so I don't know if they're software updates or different setups or, I was comparing, payroll setup versus the budget, module.
Lori?
And yes,
You encountered anomalies in where, what?
in how it's, in which earning amount lines, are used as a basis for calculating New Hampshire retirement.
Jamie, are you on board with this?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Okay, so the budget module, and I'm not sure, if I understand correctly, I'm not sure that Jamie uses this feature.
I do
but
not use the feature on the system. I do all of mine with Excel spreadsheets outside of the system, and then I manually enter them.
Right, so,
Okay.
Is
so,
that how it was done here?
Yes, that's how we used to do it there.
So this is a new system to the district?
No, it's the same system. It's just that they have instituted using a module within the system. And it was done before Lori got there.
it was implemented last year, and I've used this system, I've used this module in other districts without these same issues.
All right, thank you. I'm showing my lack of knowledge in
No,
these
that's,
systems.
no, that's okay, well,
Hmm.
it's not a user-friendly system, so.
Okay, thank you for explaining it. Thank you, Jamie.
I don't
Um,
agree with that statement, but that's okay.
It's not intuitive. So anyway, it,
Got that on it?
Mhm.
Thank you.
for, just as an example, you were looking specifically at the regular ed for high school teacher lines. What I learned is that, so, our teachers can have longevity and they can have, an additional amount that they are paid based on board certification. The board certification, it's calculating New Hampshire retirement based on the board certification, but it's not capturing New Hampshire retirement and calculating New Hampshire retirement for the longevity.
Yeah.
And then when I looked at FICA, it is calculating those expenses for longevity, but not for the board certification. So, and so I was concerned, I went back to the payroll system and looked up the settings, and it's set to appropriately calculate and, deduct, New Hampshire retirement contributions as well, of course, the taxes for both categories. So that accounted for 20 or 20, I think 20,000 of the difference, 25,000 of the difference.
Of that line.
Yes. So again, we're
Yeah.
working on coming up with what that correction should be as well. And so, by the same token, we would have the same situation, I believe, with support staff, but not all of our support staff have New Hampshire retirement, so I couldn't
Yeah, I
test
couldn't
that
either.
on a, you know,
I didn't test that for just that reason,
Right.
because I can't see the, you're
Right.
absolutely right. It depends on hours worked, so.
so I feel like I should do a deep dive on that as well, just to identify who does contribute and should have that deduction.
And I only did 11 and 1,200.
Yeah, I know, I
Okay.
understand.
So in a discussion I had with Steve, I learned about drill down. Is that what we need at this point?
Details, whatever.
So I did consult with our attorney, and drilling down is going to provide, information that you're not really entitled
We are going to
to.
contest that.
Okay, that's fine. But based on my legal counsel, I cannot provide to you details such as the,
Understood.
health insurance and deductions, personal deductions, their 403B contributions, their FSA
We're
choices.
gonna consult. Is this Matt Upton?
Yes,
Okay, we'll have a discussion about it. Can
Mm-hmm.
we set a date? Because this board, when it requests information, will be. We're not gonna crack a whip.
Mhm.
But we will be provided the information desired and needed to balance the interests of the cooperative to do our job.
Mhm.
And so let's have a discussion with Matt Upton.
So along those lines, I will say that in my email to you, I feel that I have, for the most part, I know I have not provided a default number. I don't have a budget, a school board budget to really nail down my default number. And I have learned through experience that if you throw a number out there, that's what you're held to. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are that change. And if I know what your input and feeling is about the budget. And if the board so chooses to go that direction as well, it will have an impact on my default budget.
Understood.
So I'm trying to be responsible and efficient with time and the information that's provided.
Okay.
And then I also need to update the tax schedule, which all of this discussion will impact. So that has not been provided. There was a request for position comparison or FTE comparison or something. Anyway, I asked for clarification on what it was that you were seeking. I have not received that clarification, so I didn't understand what you were looking for, so I haven't provided that.
Okay, thank you. Jamie, would you like to check in with us? Any thoughts so far?
No, I'm just listening.
Okay, thank you.
As I said, I know that I had not provided, I provided some general information about the CTE enrollment as well as, the ticket, general work order tickets for facilities, in my email this afternoon, once I had the detailed report and information from the appropriate parties. I've provided that in the email, so you now have that. I believe that everything else, while I agree it has not been a smooth process this year, I have provided the information. So if I'm asking that if you still feel that there's information that's missing, that I receive that request as soon as possible, so I can have that for Monday night's meeting and discussion. And that was sent to both the board as well as the budget committee. Because I want to meet those requests.
Thank you for your statement. I am thankful that you are on the team with us and doing the great job you are.
Thank you.
You were not handed an easy task. And I've been using the analogy about playing the hand you're dealt.
Mhm.
And you've played it to the best of your abilities, and we appreciate the work thus far.
Mhm.
Part of the frustration from the committee is the format in which we've received information. This binder is disappointing compared to the ones from a decade ago. And that's not on you. You were busy. We were demanding a budget, demanding numbers, and you produced. Thank you for your work thus far.
I have been very upfront from the start that this is not reflective of what I do in a budget season, what I produce in a budget season. It is not reflective of what you'll receive for next year.
I believe you.
And I understand that you all are working on a succinct list for what you want. I might provide more information because there's information that is beneficial for understanding processes and, you know.
Yeah.
And I just want to add, next year, Lori will start with the finance manager in the office. Lori will start with the human resource director in the office. And then we have the critical pieces to the puzzle that are critical to the infrastructure of the organization, so that Lori can effectively do this, and she won't spend time cross-training and bringing people up to speed so that we can get this information in a timely manner. So it's not for a lack of wanting to give the information. There's a lot of moving parts. Even with the information requested before, it wasn't that Lori didn't want to give it, she just didn't want to make sure there was a HIPAA violation that we will be held accountable for, and I cannot direct my direct reports to do anything that violates the law. So we'll get you the information, but we want to make sure that it's ethical and in line with it, and we'll work together as a collaborative to make sure that you have everything that you need.
Thank you. But take this time to let the record reflect one example of a very appreciated data point. Steve Barone would agree with me. On the sheet you contributed to was a Steve Barone sheet.
Mhm.
And you added to it a number of columns that had buildings. The number of buildings had a lot of data on that sheet. One of them was the number 13.1. Thank you for that information. It's been very useful. 13.1. That number is burned into my notes.
I don't remember what 15.
Steve, can you fill us in?
Okay.
It was the average class size, for Fall Mountain, at least for the year that you
Mhm.
Yeah, which I think was 21, 22.
Yeah, it was the year, and I couldn't go, the data,
No,
Wasn't
15 years ago wasn't
available.
available. I
I
understand.
would have provided that
Right,
had it
right.
been.
So I wish the record to reflect that we appreciate the work done thus far. If you can find the right words for me. Thank you, Ahmed.
I think that next year, when we're talking about, just to add on to what you and what everybody is saying, but that when we talk about the list of what we're looking at, I think it will be very helpful for us to sit down and collaborate to say, okay, this is what we think we need. And then what do you think that we, like those supporting documents so that we can help understand, so that we can, I think that it's just, well, I guess what I'm trying to say is I think we're all on the same page, that that's what we really want to do, and we look forward to it.
Yeah, so if the binder will be better organized and it will be fat. I mean, like I bought big binders because I.
For one thing, I am sure that this year is going to be memorable.
For the wrong reason.
Would the administrators agree?
Yeah.
Principals in the room, directors, it's gonna be a memorable year. And on my stack of shelves
Mhm.
is the binder from each of the last probably decade. This one will stand out and I'll remember
Mhm.
working as part of this team, and thanks for everybody for what you do. Any further thoughts? Amanda, where are we?
On the agenda,
Yeah,
Yeah, Michael, you got us?
number 4, budget discussion. For report of the administration, action vote to accept report.
Yeah, let's do that for the record. It's a practice of the Springfield Hospital Board to, Amanda, am I correct?
Yep.
Are we allowed to do that in the school setting?
you're just making a motion to accept the report of, yeah, I think that you could do that,
Michael, can you make that motion to accept the report of the
administration.
administration?
I move we accept the report of the administration.
And a second, seconded by Amanda?
Yeah.
Roll call vote, Jamie?
I'm not sure what I'm voting on, the discussion that Lori gave us, because we don't have an actual written report.
Right, I don't know if we actually need an actual report, it's the report that was
Okay,
given.
so the verbal discussion that we had. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll go with that. Teague, yes.
Aaron, yes.
KPS.
St. Pierre, yes?
Spalding, yes.
Veron, yes.
Alessio, yes. Sony, yes.
Thank you. I think that was a good experiment, and if, unless objection, we'll do that in the future. Number 4, budget discussion. Steve Rowan, can you start us off with your thoughts? Throw you right under the bus here for
Yeah,
traction.
apparently,
We can, how about Chris Spalding? You got anything to bring forward, questions for the administrators?
I have a myriad of questions, but I tried to narrow them down. One of them is, the staffing position interventionist. So, I'm just curious. They're not core faculty, right, core staff, as in teaching a class, right?
Is that a technical term, core staff?
I mean, they're teaching a core content area, they're supporting the work.
Right.
And just since I have the floor, I also want to just congratulate the district and the fact that looking at our recent accountability data, the district has moved closer to the state average in most of our grade levels. So we want to just acknowledge that. Thank you to the work of the teachers and administration. We should clap for that. We took a dip in the COVID year and we started the year off, but we are close to the average and our goal is to exceed that. But yes, if there's a question about how the interventionist is being used, I will defer to the building principals to speak directly to how that's being operationalized in the building. If that's the question, but I first needed to ask the question.
We'll give the opportunity, any building principal present, if you wish to explain your interventionist positions in terms that a dirt worker can understand.
Okay.
Speak for Walpole.
Thank you, Justin Casarino.
So
For the record, this is Justin Casarino, principal of Walpole Middle School.
Walpole attends.
Walpole attendance, thank you. I don't mean to take that.
That's okay. So for Walpole, we have 2 interventionists currently. We have one that focuses on our K through 4, and they're working with students on specific skills. When we meet as a data team, we say, all right, these skills, what we need to really focus on. So they're working on ELA and math with that. And then I have another interventionist that's working with our students 3 through 8. Now, sometimes these interventionists are in the classroom supporting the teacher. Sometimes they're working in a one-to-one setting on specific skills, or sometimes they're even working in a small group. And when we do interventions, an intervention block for the entire school, they're working with students either to expose them to more content if they're doing extremely well with assessments, or working on really detailed specific skills that students are struggling with some more support in.
Thank you, Justin. Christopher, any follow-up questions?
Yeah,
Hold on, wait, whoa, we got more principals in the,
We do have more principals and we will take more examples. I'm going to give the floor to Chris to ask a follow-up question if we can.
So my question is, I can understand the need. So we've gone through some changes last year, reduction in staff, these types of things are gonna happen. So when is the interventionist needed? So when would we need to hire the interventionist? And then what's the protocol when, hey, we're doing great, we don't need the interventionist position? Or is the interventionist positions now become forever?
That's-
So,
So, and anybody else who'd like to chime in, we're gonna have a discussion. We'll take them one at a time. I know you can keep me succinct and polite. Let's have a discussion.
Prior to that, if I will, just speaking largely, the interventionist position is not unique to this system. There are systems across America because from an educational standpoint, we realize that there is a need to provide targeted instruction to help support the work of the core content teachers. As the children into the system over the years, they come in with varying needs, varying degrees of preparation. And one of our challenges as a district from a student achievement perspective is the ways in which we effectively educate our special education students, as well as our economically disadvantaged students. So these positions are critical because they're supporting the needs of teachers. They're doing a lot of work with data. And in our discussion today, and a lot of this was expounded on this, we talked about what do we attribute the growth that we have seen in our scores to. And I believe the administration would argue that part of that growth and moving us closer to state average was those positions that were added, but I'll allow you all to respond on that.
I have a question for you, Christopher. How do you quantify the growth?
It's measurable. We can, I don't have the charts in front of me, but the specific amount of points that we moved as a system from where we were, that's state down.
he's talking about the testing.
The test, yeah, I'm sorry,
And
yeah.
I'm just trying to explain for the record,
Oh.
and the people out in Zoom land, how do we quantify this stuff?
Yeah, that's a good question. Thanks, Dave. So we're looking at the New Hampshire State Assessment data as the barometer for how the system is performing. Where are we in regards to performing as a district? And then also as comparatively to the state average. So there's been a lot of work with these positions and way they function in the system to help catch the students up. But to answer Chris's question, which is a valid question, it really depends on the students that you have entering the system and what their needs are as they enter the system. So that's why it's kind of hard to say definitively 3 years or 5 years, because it really depends on who the children are and what the needs they are that they have. But from an operational standpoint, I would like you to expound on that.
Yeah, so for the data piece, we have our interventionists and our teachers that will assess the students at a certain point. We do these interventions for 4 to 6 weeks. And then we assess them again to see the growth, if they're making it. And then we take that group of students, if they're making the growth and they don't need that skill anymore, they go back into, and then we look at the other assessments to say, these students are struggling. Let's work with this group on this specific skill and go from there. Yes.
I'm just gonna pause a moment for our secretary to catch up. Thank you, Ahmed. Is there any other building principal, thank you, Justin, that wishes to chime in?
So in Alsted, I have a K4 interventionist that is exclusively pushed into the classroom. And what that's allowing, yes,
Exclusively push in,
which means they don't go into a classroom and pull kids out to work individually. We have it set up so that they're going into the classroom, working with a small group of children that are on a similar level. So intervention, if you want to look at intervention, it is breaking your kids up, basically where they are right now currently. So they're getting very pointed and very direct instruction at where they're at currently in academics. And similar to Walpole, we are assessing this every 4 to 6 weeks and moving the kids throughout our intervention groups. Because when we do this correctly, we have anywhere up to 4 or 5 groups of kids within a classroom. So they're getting very specific and targeted attention to where their deficits are. In math, so did you have a question before I keep going?
I'm just gonna check in with the board. Have you had your question answered yet? Chris?
No, but it's very,
I'm gonna come back to the question then. Thank you. We have it. I'm just getting a new appreciation for the record. Between Ahmed and the digital, we have a good understanding of interventionists. Go ahead,
I
Chris.
would just say this, look, we're all in the district and I have a wife who teaches, most of you know. I have an understanding of what the interventionist is for, and I think that, but we also know that we've got to balance the books. If there is a metric, and we alluded a little bit to it, when is the metric that the scores are low? Yeah, we need some help. But
I
where
thought-
is it when we can move on?
I think what I took away from what Dr. Spence said was that if we're using the New Hampshire State assessment data as the barometer, that's your metric.
Yeah.
That when we are pushing towards average, and then when you exceed average, then you would reassess. That's what I took from what, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Dr. Spence, but that's
No,
what I took.
but that's precisely what it is, because again, we have to, when you own a business, you control the means of production. You control the materials to which you use to build the vehicle. If I want to build a Rolls Royce or a BMW, which uses aluminum, very soft metal, I buy the aluminum and I can assess that it's all going to be perfect. And if it's not, I send it back and I get away from it. But a school system doesn't work like that. We take the children as they are, and we have to build the supports around them to move the needle forward. So it's hard to definitively say, for a lot of reasons, at what point do we not need it? Because I need to know what the challenges are for the kids that are coming in behind the kids that are exiting the system. But then also, it goes to our larger conversation about what is our district goal? And that's a conversation, that's work that we're going to do around our strategic plan as to what the goals is, et cetera.
Kristen Wilson?
So my name is Kristen Wilson. I'm the Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment here. One of the things that I want to caution you about when we're talking about the accountability data is that there is the New Hampshire average. So every year, the state of New Hampshire will go through and say, okay, here's where the average score is, but they also will say what the target is that they want the state to get to. And that target is always above the average for the state. So, and the target moves every single year. So the state has not even met the target that the Department of Ed has set for the state. So that needs to be where we want to go. And we're not meeting that yet. We are exceeding the state average for some of our grade levels, but we need to be shooting for the target, for that target for the state level, in every grade level.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
You're welcome.
Mr. Hicks, I have a question.
Yes,
How many hours a week does your sixth graders receive mathematics?
44 minutes a day, 5 days a week,
Thank you for knowing your school.
220 minutes a week. If I did my math.
I could ask a dozen questions in this room, and I feel that the people present could answer any one of them on the spot like that. Thank you for knowing what you do inside and out. We'll take a minute for the record. Good. All right, what do we have next? Chris, did you get your question answered?
Yeah, I just want to know that these are the types of things that we have to have the information on, and I appreciate everybody's opinion and how we go about this, and it is a gray area as far as I'm concerned, you know, because yes, we want them to be above average, you know, so there's considerations on everything, and it's a very difficult position to be here looking at the budget going, taxpayers aren't gonna like this, and then also what we need for our children. So, and that's why I asked that question, because we're gonna have these questions on staffing from here on out. I mean, it's just the way the nature of the beast is going now. So, thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Steve DeLassio? We're under budget discussion.
Yeah. I have a lot to say, but, given what we've been given so far, as far as information goes, it's pretty hard to have been able to take a deep dive into the budget as we did in the past, right? Because the budget's still moving in different directions. I think that there's opportunity to reduce the budget without affecting programs and affecting staff and so forth. We should remember that this committee does not have any say over where the money should come from. So, just put that out there. It's up to the administration and the school board to make those decisions. Should we reduce them? Should we reduce the budget? One area that I think that I'm still waiting for a number from the administration is how many open positions are there in the school district? Do we know?
We are working to clean up some of those positions, but I just want to check and do we have a definitive number yet?
And did you not, when they're working on that?
That we're working to clean up some of those positions for vacancy management, yeah.
When can we expect that number? Reasonably.
And Bill and I can work on it tomorrow and.
Can you, how
For
about
next
at the
week.
conclusion of this meeting, we're gonna have more than this question.
Mhm.
Can you
Just
give
take it
us,
as a question.
can you get us at the end of the meeting? Is it gonna be a couple days? Is it gonna be a week to answer our questions? If you can keep a running tally.
Okay.
Because one area that we could save considerable amount of money and not have an effect is to do vacancy management. It's unlikely that every position is gonna be filled on July 1. So if we schedule that out and take a look at what's reasonable and practical over the course of the school year, you can wind up cutting, significant amount of money from the budget. And at the same time, I'll advocate if you have a great candidate that comes in, you hire the person, right? I'm not suggesting you don't hire the person. You hire the person if there's a great candidate that comes in. And that's an opportunity to reduce the budget without not having an effect on anything, really. And that's the kind of thing I think we need to begin to look at. We don't have a lot of time, unfortunately, but those are the kinds of things we should look at. I'm a little concerned when one of the directors said we just added 5% to the budget. I think that's another area that we should look at a little deeper to see if there's any opportunity there to reduce budget. I can say that when you have towns like Langdon that will get hit with, 20% kind of tax increases, we've got to do something to try to minimize the stink as best we can without upsetting the district and what's going on there. So I really think we have to work hard over the next couple of days or next week between now and not the budget hearing, but the deliberative session, to really come back and say, okay, we can reduce this stuff without having a major impact on the school district.
Lori?
So I will say that, I, took into account the suggestion and the questions about vacancy management. And I have been looking at that, and, a number of our vacancies, current vacancies and open positions are, related to student needs and driven by IEPs.
Absolutely.
So my concern is that, we have vacant positions, so clearly we are struggling to meet the needs per the IEP.
Right.
But by having a vacant position, we're showing that we're making an effort to obtain the resources we need to meet those needs. And if we eliminate those positions and don't have open
I didn't say
positions.
eliminate the position. I didn't say
Can we,
that.
let's pause.
Yep.
Clarify for the record. Can, Ahmed, can we read back the statement?
Oh, gosh,
Only if it's illegal.
it's gonna be a little rough.
Never mind,
Yeah,
never
okay,
mind.
sorry.
Steve, can
I'll
you,
rephrase it to make sure. I'm just saying that we spread the dollars. And if the position remains open, it doesn't go away. If you could fill it, you absolutely should fill it. But if nobody comes in for it, why burden the taxpayer in July for the dollar amount when you're not gonna be able to hire it in all practical until December, right? You save 6 months worth of salary and benefits.
and I'd like at this point, Lori, you'll get a chance to answer. Steve, you sent me an email that outlined this.
Yeah.
Can we add that to the record?
Sure.
You're comfortable with that?
Yep.
I also sent it to Alyssa. It outlines the way that Walpole has done it.
We've done it in Walpole, I've done it in my professional career for, 40 years.
So again, I would say that I would still have a concern about being able to fully fund all of those IEP need related positions, because what if we do have an influx and we have everybody?
You'll always have a place to get money.
Okay, we're working on the budget and trying to
Well,
fine
I'm
tune it.
just saying that you'll always find a place where if you have a good employee that comes in or potential employee, you don't walk away from them.
Okay,
Not until.
so I'm gonna close this discussion. And we're gonna pause for a minute and we'll just pause to take a note. If we can all catch up, get on the same page.
Mhm.
I'm gonna take a minute here to send out Steve's email to the budget committee. Steve
These.
Delesio. Lori, go ahead and answer the question.
I think I don't think we have a meeting of the minds at this time, and it would be helpful to see if you have written out how this would work, it would be helpful to have a better understanding of how you would apply it to.
Yeah, I mean, a good example, in the town of Walpole,
Mhm.
you can have an open position, you can't hire until March, after the March,
Mhm.
town
Yeah, I
meeting.
understand that, yeah.
So you don't budget 12 months in your first year, you only budget 9 months, and then you take a realistic look
Mhm.
that says, how long is it gonna take after March to even hire somebody? So you might say, no, maybe May, somebody will walk in by May. So you only budget half the year.
But that's not the timeline here, right?
Yeah.
The vote,
Okay, but one
the vote
thing.
happens in March, but it doesn't get executed until July.
It's July, that's what I'm saying.
So there is a way to do it. We're not
Yeah.
going to take any more time right now to
Yeah.
discuss this. The email has been sent and I will send it to you as well. We can take it up on our next
Sure.
meeting.
Sure, that's fine.
Amanda?
No.
Michael, do you have anything
No,
any thoughts? Jamie, can we go to you next?
Yeah, I have a few based on our last meeting. Let me figure out how to run the Zoom. It's been a while. Okay. All right. We had a few difficult conversations because obviously as you do different versions of the budget, things change, right? And so we tried to go back and look at some of the different items that were shared, and they don't match up. One of them specifically was a big conversation was about the ESSER positions and exactly what ones were being cut and what ones were being put into the budget. Case in point, there are two documents that were posted, both on 12/18 and 12/24, or they were reviewed at least on 12/24. One says summary of changes in position. That shows 9 from ESSER and 50% of one FTE from another grant. And then there's another document that says ESSER positions on it. That's the one with the blue highlights that has 8 highlighted bodies in it, not 9. And the positions don't line up. And then there's a couple of other documents that have people in it who says moved from ESSER. So we really don't have a clear idea of exactly what's been included from the grants because there are different documents that have different information and they don't match. So,
Okay, Jamie,
so that's my first question, and I don't need an answer, just somebody needs to go back and look at it for us.
can we take a moment for Lori to acknowledge it? We got it, everything we need to do for that first question.
Yeah, I need to, you want me to go back and,
Double check it.
yeah, and so,
I'll send you all 3 documents. I have them.
I have the documents, I mean, they're in the folder, right?
Yeah, they're in, obviously you've moved some out and then you've gone in and reviewed some. I have them, I just went on to look to see what the dates were while everybody was talking so that I could tell you, you know, what dates are on them. Some are 12/18, some are 12/24, one is prior to that. Yeah, so you just want to take a look at that because it was a big part of the committee's discussion. The other part that is confusing for us is that, and there's I know there are different reasons for this. Okay, so I'm just pointing it out because it was very confusing for the committee that when we looked at all the different reports that are printed off, whether they're by the town or specifically the admin proposed budget or REV 1.4 raw data, the bottom totals don't match what had been sent out before, specifically for the prior year. And what it appears is that the special warrant articles were dropped off of that. And so it makes the increase amount look higher than it was in prior versions. And right or wrong, because right, we look at things, you know, there's general fund budget above this line, then there's, you know, other funds, and then there's special revenue warrant or special warrant articles. And I get why things like that happen because there's different sections that we look at. It would be helpful, I think, for the committee and the school board if we could get the normal document that we're used to seeing, that's the complete overview of where we are, right?
Jamie, what, can we pause?
Yeah.
Lori?
Okay, so, you are absolutely correct in that the prior year numbers changed. There was a meeting here, I don't remember if it was the board meeting or if it was with the budget committee. And that specific point about the special warrant articles was raised. And I walked away from that with the understanding that you wanted to see a document excluding those amounts. And that we needed to go back to what was proposed and match the warrant articles versus what was passed. So that is what I did until that changed the
Okay.
prior year number.
Okay.
I mean, but that was based on a conversation and direction I thought for the preference.
Okay, Jamie?
Yeah, so that makes sense, Lori. Thank you. Because obviously, when you pull those special warrant articles out, it gives you apples to apples comparison on the direct budgets above that line. So it makes the percentage of increase higher. Yeah, okay. that makes
So-
sense and why they were pulled out. Okay.
Yeah, because I had to go into my actual report setting and change columns.
Right.
To affect that change in the report. As far as it being helpful to see the overview and report you're used to seeing, I'm not sure, are you referring to the multi-tab cell with the,
It's that one page that is normally sent out to the voters that has, you know, it's by function, I think, probably function or department. And then it usually has like 3 years on it and then what's proposed. And that one, you would include anything that would have passed, even though we know it skews and I'm sorry, Lori, I don't have my book here because I hope to be there and all my books are at home. But yeah, it would be the overview one that's usually in the book.
Jamie?
Yeah.
Jamie, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
All right. If I can ask you a question, Jamie, is this
Yeah.
the reason why from version, whatever it was, 1.2 to version 1.3, it jumped from 3.1% to 5.55%?
Yes.
yes,
Does everybody understand why those numbers jumped?
Yeah,
Can
that's what,
can the record reflect that? Because looking at those, it looked like it jumped through, overnight. So it's good to
it looked
understand.
like the budget had increased when in reality it had not increased. It had actually gone down. And that was our conversation at the meeting because Lori had actually made a 70-something thousand adjustment. But by taking those out, it made it look like it went up. And I understand the conversation she's talking about because it was a conversation that we had about the fact that, there's this much money of special warrant articles, which makes that budget look artificially lower than it really is for addition.
Okay. Are we clear on that point?
yes, I did run a report by function. I'm just looking to see if it did not get uploaded because it doesn't get in, so it might have been overlooked.
Well,
So
if you have it and just want to stuff it in there, that'd be great. Thanks.
yes,
Can we add that to the list of things you'll give us an expectation for at the end of the meeting?
Mhm.
except for it's not summarized, or need to summarize it.
And if you need to break them down individually, like this is, one big request, and you're gonna say this one's gonna take a week, or these you can have in 2 days.
Okay.
Expect in 2 days, you can break it down for us like that, and send it to the whole budget committee, not just me.
We appreciate that, and we'll just keep doing this throughout the night. Everything that we want, I want to make sure that we have the full list so we can get it to you, and we'll let you know the timeline. Try to get it as soon as possible.
Okay, what's our next ask or request for information?
Jamie.
The only other thing from our meeting was about the SRO questions we had.
Yep. And we do have a guest here tonight, who can tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, thank you. That'd be it for me.
I invite Nate Chapey to introduce himself.
Sure. I'm Nate Chapey. I'm one of the selectmen in Langdon. So, we have been in talks with the SAU and the state police, about the SRO position down here and sort of what everybody feels is inadequate. So we were asked to provide some numbers as to what would be a good, kind of figure to have the SRO down here. So the select board had a meeting with Dr. Spence and Lori, about the current budget, what's happening. And then, they got back to us with some numbers. They want an SRO down here, I think it's 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. So right now it's sporadic.
Hold on a moment. For the record, can we get those numbers?
8 hours a day, 5 days a week.
Is that right, Lori? That's what we talked about, right? I think the original request was 9 hours, but that kind of went down to 8. I don't know why.
Okay, got it.
Is that year round or school year?
School year.
188 days?
180.
So the budget committee got the email I sent, right, Gabe?
That was a question. How many days? How many days is an SRO?
We're 180, we're 180 school days.
Well, it's not obvious that it's gonna match the amount of school days, so I'm asking how many days that they're gonna be here.
Oh, that's a fair question, because we need to, yes, so we're assuming 180 days. And I guess we also need to understand the request is it that the school district is funding the position. I think this is how we got here is in a year with a tight budget, is the school district, the expectation that they're funding the entire position? And if we're funding it for 180 days, then what happens in the other months?
So here's how we got there. So we had a committee put together in Langdon to look at getting a full-time police chief. Because, the current person we have now, Jonathan, who's been doing a lot of the SRO stuff here, is good. Everybody knows it's hard to find cops. So, when we met with Dr. Spence and with Lori, what came out of that were some of those numbers. And so we put a package together, and the budget committee has the email. The numbers, what we were proposing to pay him as the full-time chief. There's certain things, other expenses in there that you have to pay. And Lori had said 10 months is the norm. That's what she told. So you take what you're gonna pay your cop and the school pays 10 months. That's how we got there. That email kind of goes right through. We didn't put anything in there. The board didn't put anything in the select board for, things like the vehicle, sidearm, uniform, town. We'll run that through our own budget.
Do you have a ball?
What's that?
You say you run that through your own budget, you're not gonna charge us?
Right.
Cause from the email, yep, got you, Jamie, in a second. From the email, said they didn't include any costs for the cruiser,
Right.
and that was left open-ended, I feel.
It won't include cost for the cruiser.
All right, thank you, and the record reflects. Got it. Jamie, go ahead.
I'm just looking for the I'm looking for the email.
Gabe forwarded it to us.
Can you,
December
I think
26th.
Yeah, I think I found it.
6:31
Thank you.
PM.
Thank you. Sorry.
you all
Yeah.
set, Jamie?
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you.
All right, go ahead. Nick? Sorry, I interrupted there.
No, that's all right. So that's how the Langdon Select Board got that number. After we've met with the state police a bunch of times, because they're the ones currently doing it. Our understanding is it has to be a Langdon officer that covers the school, or somebody with jurisdiction in Langdon. So Langdon cop, state police, or sheriff. The state police have basically told us they don't want to do it, they can't fill it. The sheriff's flat out said no, through the state police. We didn't meet with them, but apparently they had conversations. There's a need, and so we're trying to work with the SAU to put a package together that meets the need.
All
If
right,
it's all gotta run through the town of Langdon, and you want it full time, then the select board of Langdon is gonna be more involved than we have been. There's can be no question about that.
okay. Can I ask, the principal, is Sarah Edmonds available to speak to us about what an RSO does in the schools? SRO, excuse me.
In a perfect world, hi, Sarah Edmonds, principal here. In a perfect world, the SRO is part of our school community who is not only for safety, but for bridging the gap for kids as they make choices that aren't always so good, as they have questions. It's another adult who can help them weave their way through life, right? And having the background of law enforcement is very helpful to help kids understand their rights, the laws, and to bring the community together. So instead of fear, when they see a police officer, they say, hey, I know that guy, if they're in trouble, there's somebody I can call. I know who to talk to, I know that guy or that person. So the SRO is not just security, but a teacher. And they go through training for it.
Jonathan's been through that training.
He's excellent.
My understanding is the state cops who have been here, some have it, some don't.
Correct. the troopers that come here are wonderful. But they are not here to make connections with the kids.
They're armed security guards. That's what they are. It's not a true SRO.
Some of them do make connections and have that intrinsic, like, willingness to work with students, yeah.
Can you quantify it? Do you have a number in mind, how many student interactions your SRO has in a regular day?
So if we're talking about the times that Jonathan's in the building is different than when we have troopers in the building.
How so?
The troopers, law is a little bit different within a school. So we don't want troopers to be, patting down kids. We don't want them to have any hands-on or anything. Neither would any SRO. Any searches or bags or anything that happens through administration only, not of law enforcement. So the troopers kind of stay out of it. If there's something going on, they'll follow us there, but they don't really have the knowledge of the students to get in there and talk it out with them like we do. To have an SRO, when Jonathan was here, the difference was he would walk through the halls and have interactions with students every minute of the day. He would be in the lunchroom talking with kids, sitting down with them. He is a deterrent and an asset.
Thank you, Ms. Edmonds.
You're welcome.
Does anyone else wish to speak on, from a community perspective, budget perspective? Questions? Amanda?
Going from the budget committee as well?
Yes.
Okay, so, Nick, for your benefit, I'm a selectman in Walpole.
Me.
So,
Me.
I'm sorry. So I understand the difficulties of getting police officers and so forth very well. I don't disagree that the SRO is a necessary position to have in the school full-time. I think that's great.
Keyword being necessary,
I just,
required.
yeah, required, necessary, I don't know. I don't know if what happens when the chief is here full-time? What happens to police coverage in Langdon?
Probably similar to what you have now, which wouldn't be anything.
Anything, right?
Jonathan's
So
right. So Jonathan's the one we're looking to hire for this. But if he says, no, those numbers don't work for me,
Is
then
Jonathan?
we might get somebody else.
Is Jonathan the chief right now?
He is not the chief, but he's our only cop.
Okay,
He's full-time gig as a fish and game officer.
okay, oh, now I know who it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my question. It was always came out there, the chief was gonna be here full-time.
No,
I'm
in
like, how do
fact,
you
that
run a
was one
department?
thing that was explored before with Walpole Police Department.
Yeah, I know,
How we might do that.
I remember that whole,
Yep,
Thing
and
as
that
well.
was, Walpole Select Board was very clear that was not an option. But yeah, no, it's not like the Langdon Police Station is gonna be in one of these rooms and he's gonna be in and out. What we would do is we would figure out with probably the administration, and maybe the school board.
the idea is that you would hire an officer to be the SRO officer
Right.
here at the.
So
Okay.
when he's here, he's here. So if somebody goes and gets in a car accident, state police got to cover it. Or if we can hire a part-timer in Langdon, we do that, but been trying that for almost 10 years.
Because I see that in an officer, I think there was 80,000 in the budget to begin with.
Yep.
And as a regular officer, you can get a 2-year officer for that kind of money. But if
Those
you're gonna
numbers
hire
are
Jonathan, that's a whole nother.
those numbers are,
Yeah, so the reason,
there.
the way we came to that number is again.
can
we had
I
a-
just,
Yeah.
hold on, before we get to that. You said one of these rooms, and I will testify that it was that room. I've been in that room on 6 occasions, 2 of them were on good terms. Christopher, go ahead.
No, I just think it's important to also note that if we fund this position, and correct me if I'm wrong, Nate, but this becomes a multi-year agreement, right?
That's the way it was originally proposed, and so that was one thing that we need to look at.
Because I'm saying that because we don't want to fund the position and tell him he's coming here, and then we gotta take it out the budget next year. So we need to be on the same page that this is a multi-year agreement.
But what I would say to that is, I agree with that.
Hold the phone. There was nothing in that email that said a multi-year agreement.
The one for me?
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's not what we're after.
That's what we discussed.
and it's, so let's discuss it now.
So that's what Jonathan wants.
Okay.
Okay, that's not what the board's
So
proposed. though.
is Jonathan gonna give up his fishing game role?
He would if we can make it work, but I
Okay,
think
all
if
right.
you want an SRO, so
That's all.
here's the way we came down on it. If we, for whatever reason, can't get it to work with him, we're gonna put it out there.
You're
And
gonna
the
try to
school-
hire somebody?
Yeah, the school needs an SRO, and Langdon needs a cop,
Yeah,
so.
no, that made sense to me when I read it,
Yeah,
but it didn't make sense because the email I thought said the police chief was gonna take over the position.
well, yes, Langdon will hire him as our full-time police chief, and kind of his main gig is gonna be, because we don't need a full-time
You don't need a full-time
cop
officer.
in Langdon
No,
necessarily.
okay.
So what drives that is the school.
Yeah.
So the multi-year agreement is, that's something Jonathan had wanted, because if he leaves Fish and Game, he doesn't want to get left in the lurch. We talked to him about that. And again, if we sit down with him and we say, here's how it's gonna be, and he says, no, I can get something better somewhere else, and we'll, that's kind of where we are.
Okay, at this time, I need a motion on the table to take this up under discussion. That's my mistake. We don't have any motion to discuss. We're not gonna vote on anything. So anybody who'd like to say it's 114,000, right?
I think it
Yeah.
is, yeah.
Would you-
Can I speak first?
Yes, Jamie?
Thank you. So first of all, it's not up to the budget committee to make an agreement with the town of Langdon for an SRO. It's up to the school board. Okay? So the only discussion that you all would be having regarding this would be about the fact that there's 80 grand in the budget now and we're short 34,000 based on the email that implied it was a full-time Langdon chief of police. So really the budget committee's role, if you will, for this piece would be just about the problem of the funding, right? Because that's what our role is as a budget committee. The school board, on the other hand, needs to take this up because it is the school board and only the school board who can ratify a multi-year agreement with the town of Langdon regarding this. And I have thoughts on that, but I'm not gonna talk about them tonight because it needs to be talked. That needs to be discussed at the school board level. So sorry to interrupt.
You're aware, no, I apologize for not seeing you on the Zoom and getting to your questions sooner.
That's all right.
At this time, so let's entertain a motion, so we have something to vote on, a straw poll. You don't need a vote, but a straw poll would be nice. We're talking about, what is it, 34,000?
Yes.
Yes.
To our imaginary number that we haven't come up with yet. But Lori, can you, one thing at a time. Christopher?
Yeah, I just wanna say, I haven't made a position, but I support the request, but I wanna make sure we're not putting someone in a bad position because they are potentially leaving on another role. So I just wanna make sure that's understood.
Thank you. That needs to be understood, because if we're obligated by a handshake, which is all we would be obligated by for the next 3 years, that needs to be understood. There's nothing that says next year, say this gets put in, we find, what is it, 34,000?
Yep.
Say this 34,000 gets found this year, because at this point, the committee has not found that 34,000. Straw poll at this point, who's in favor of 34,000 additional to whatever number we come up with tonight at this time? So we just it needs to be discussed. So without support at this time, Amanda, can you help me out?
What we're trying to. I'm confused as to what you were asking for. I'm sorry.
We need something to discuss, so it's
Right.
looking for,
You want a motion to
Whether we
discuss the
support it.
additional 34,000 and whether we support that?
So moved.
moved by Michael,
Second,
seconded by Amanda, thank you. So let's continue the discussion. This is for support. Chris,
Jamie wants to say something.
Jamie?
Jamie.
So I'm not gonna vote because I think a vote on this is premature because the school board hasn't weighed in on whether or not they're willing to enter into a 3-year agreement with the town of Langdon regarding the SRO position. And
Multi-year contract was never brought up. Jonathan requested that at the beginning.
I understand that, but I was there before and we always held a multi-year contract on this.
A long time ago.
Yes, it
So
was.
there's more to figure out, and there's not enough information to vote on, that's why we're not voting any real number here, it's just a straw poll.
Okay.
And at this time, and Jamie brings a really good point, that the school board needs to discuss and advise on this needs more discussion. So, unless there's any further discussion on the SRO point, we're not gonna take it up tonight, and it's not decided yay or nay, but we're done. Michael?
Do I need to withdraw my motion?
Yes.
I withdraw my motion.
You withdraw your second, Amanda?
yeah.
Thank you.
So. Right now, we have a request from administration for for this position. We have a proposal from the town of Langdon as to how to fill that position. There is a gap for this coming year of $34,000. So if I'm understanding this correctly, then the next step for this is that because there is potential for this to be a multi-year contract that has to go to the school board, although the fact that it's not necessarily hasn't been orchestrated as a multi-year contract currently. Am I understanding all of the facts as they've been presented?
Yes, thank you for your synopsis.
Okay. If those are the facts as presented, I know that Michael just withdrew his motion. But I'm in support of us finding $34,000 to fund the position. The ask of the administration, I think there's value. I think it's appropriate.
I'll second.
Jamie,
And maybe Jamie seconds?
no, Jamie's raising her hand.
I'll second it as well, if that's what you want to do. My only point here is it's a point of order, right? In that the administration appealed to the budget committee over a dollar amount because the budget committee doesn't have the authority to hire the position. The school board has the authority through the superintendent to hire the position. So that was my point of order. It's not about whether or not the budget committee will contemplate. Even if the budget committee says, no, we're not going to give you another 34 grand, that doesn't mean the position doesn't get hired.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Okay, it means that the school board and the administration figure out how to fund the position. So
That's
that
correct.
was my only point of order on it. And I can understand for something that's that important for the school board to hopefully get that on the agenda for the next meeting, so we don't have to wait forever, because I'm sure the town of Langdon and this young man are in a holding pattern to try to figure out what the heck is going on. And I get that. I totally get that. So that was my only point. It was not that I'm against it or anything else. It's a point of order.
Okay, thank you, Jamie. Nate?
Yeah, so Jamie, that's exactly right. So our town budget is very dependent on what you guys decide to do here. Because we're trying to get our budgets together. So if you guys come back and say, absolutely not, or the school board says absolutely not, then our numbers are gonna change, and we're already in January. So, budget hearings are next month, your budget hearing is coming up, so we just gotta move it, that's all.
At this point, when it comes down to apples and oranges, we're talking about cutting a dollar amount from our imaginary number. And that's the equivalent of a couple teachers. $114,000 in a budget. It's been stated tonight that the position is not necessary.
What?
What?
What are you talking about?
So
Me.
did I lose you?
Yeah,
Yeah, we lost this. The difference is $34,000.
Correct.
I believe there's 80,000 in the budget.
Right.
That's
Yes.
an accurate statement. Right, so we're looking at 34,000,
Which is 114.
and
which would break, yeah, we're looking at a gap of 34,000.
Jamie's absolutely right. This is simply a motion to add $34,000 to the budget and nothing more.
Nothing more.
Right.
That's what it comes down to.
And what I
I was a
would
couple
say
steps ahead.
is,
Thanks
yeah,
for slowing me down.
yeah.
So,
If we went without the position, you don't need the 80,000 either.
correct. That would be.
That's 114, and that's a couple teachers.
A teacher.
A teacher?
Well,
Oh, you're
teacher
right.
and a half.
What are we calling it? 85,000 is an FTE?
Yeah, roughly.
In the record
Oh. We can't.
motion,
One 34.
But
straw poll?
Yeah, we should add $34,000 to the budget.
I support it.
I have a question. Has it been asked legally if someone can be a police officer in a town and an SRO in the same town?
Yeah, they have, my understanding is they have to be.
Or like to serve as a police chief and to serve as SRO? Like, it's legally okay to do that?
As far as we know, in fact, you have to. So, we explored options like, could we have Walpole come in and do it? Select board and Walpole didn't want to do it.
we didn't want to do it.
But I have had conversations with DOT standards and training, and it's hard to get. Hard, I don't even know if it's possible to get, like, if say you hired an Elston cop to just be the SRO. You have to run that, our understanding, is you have to run that through Lang
So who would be in charge of disciplinary action?
on,
For if the SRO police chief is were to go through and they were to have a disciplinary thing?
probably the select board in Lang. They'd essentially be an employee of Lang. So the way it works right now, just for sake of completeness. State police or Jonathan, whoever it is, comes here and acts as the SRO. The town of Langdon pays that bill, and then we bill the SAU for what we pay. So it's a pass-through Langdon, but it has to go through us. Then we pay all the payroll tax and all that stuff.
I guess I'm in favor of the 34,000, but I want to just say that I'd like to see what our final numbers look like at the same time.
So noted.
Yeah.
Chris?
Is this a good time to stir the pot and say we get rid of the 80,000 and get rid of the position? Gun badge and uniform doesn't belong in the school? That would be my position.
This is the discussion to state your opinion, yes.
But
Now,
that's
running
not,
a youth detention center.
we're not running a youth detention center,
Let's
President.
have the conversation.
It's the request of the administration. The administration finds value in it. The administration says something that it's not. I disagree with your statement that we're running a youth detention center. You heard it from the principal, that he comes into the hallway, he has interactions with kids, that he is another trusted adult that you can use to, help get whatever you need, whenever you need a trusted adult, whether that's a situation with domestic abuse, a situation with violence, a situation with, I don't know, whatever else things come up when you're a teenager, drug use, choices that you have and choices that you make. It's not a detention facility.
Christopher?
I want to, from a process standpoint, point out this distinction because it's important. 50 years ago, we did not need a police officer in the school. But as times in society has changed, the function of the school has changed, and the internal and external threats to the school have changed, which we're seeing play out nationally with Iowa right now in the recent case that recently literally just happened. Concord with the hospital. My trepidation is to not fund this position. What happens? And I don't even want to think or deal with that. But I will defer to the board for guidance around this position.
Personally, I think we can afford it, but we cannot afford to go without it. Michael?
I agree with Dr. Spence. Today, that position is absolutely necessary.
Steve Rome?
I concur with Jamie. I want to hear what the school board has to say first, so I'll abstain.
Thank you. Jamie?
On the face of,
No,
I'm
no,
not.
we
mute-
got you.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the face of it, I agree with having an SRO in the school. I would like to be at the board level, having a conversation how to accomplish that through a contract that makes sense with parameters that make sense. So when I said I'd abstain before, it was because it wasn't up to us to make that decision here at this level. Okay, but in context of 34,000, yeah, I mean, that's a drop in the bucket on a budget this large. But again, it comes down to me about the contract, which isn't the conversation at this board or committee.
Can you, at this time, with your budget committee hat on, can you participate in the straw poll?
Sure, yes.
Okay. I think we have support. Ahmed, do you care to chime in?
Abstain.
Abstain, thank you. So,
Yeah.
Michael?
I think that if we approve the additional $34,000, it just gives the Board of Education additional resources to do with that money as they see fit. They may not use it all, but at least it'll be there.
You mean the school
available.
board?
Hmm?
You mean the school board? not
Yeah,
the board?
school board.
Yeah, not the board.
So yes,
All
Aaron,
set.
yes.
Steve? No, we're good.
Yeah, we're good. We don't have to do that.
Jamie, you were really good about giving us our last direction. Do you have a agenda item for us? Again?
No, my only items were what we discussed with Lori just that were two questions that had lingered from our last meeting about the ESSER positions, and then just that document that I think just got missed when everything got posted. But no, I think we had conversation before, and I think we just need some clarity because we had discussed some different dollar amounts, so.
Okay, so that decision will be made later, but we have clear support at this time for the SRO position.
With me saying no, right?
Yes,
Okay,
so I'm
good.
it on the
Just
straw
wanted to
poll.
make sure. I think there are other avenues, guidance. You all know that certain incidents happen because of the functionality of the individual's psychological makeup. So I think there are other alternatives that should be looked at rather than an SRO.
Point made.
But made, it's also part of my November 13th presentation when I said in the framework that we need to prioritize social emotional learning as a district. So I appreciate the sentiment.
Thank you for the discussion. Nate, looks like you have your support from us.
Okay, is that all? Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Appreciate the input. We're still under budget discussion.
You had started with me before and you caught me a little blindsided, so move back. Now, I want to ask some different principles, some questions. But let me start with, if you recall last year, we cut the dollar value of 6 teaching positions for this year's budget. And that was achieved, 1 in Alsted, 1 in Walpole, 2 in Charlestown, and 2 at the high school. So let me start with Kevin. Kevin, what you achieved in Alsted was that K1 combination. Correct?
Correct.
Okay, and the intent is to have that as a 1-2 combination next year?
That is part of the discussion.
Okay, it's part of the discussion. And you also have one interventionist at the moment
In the K to 4, yeah.
in the, okay, what about above that grade?
I have an interventionist at the middle school for math.
So two interventionists, in the-
Doing grades 5 through 7, and I chose those grades because
that's okay.
our
So you have
eighth graders were.
Two interventionists in the attendance area.
Correct,
Are they both grant funded currently?
currently, yes.
Okay. Okay. And there's no other proposals to add any teaching positions?
No, just to keep
No,
the
okay.
interventionists at the K 4.
Thank you. All right, now I see Chris over there. I don't know if I can see Corey. I'm sorry, I've got a cataract in one eye.
He's not here, so I can try
Okay.
to answer questions,
Okay.
but I,
So in your case, it was 2 teachers, which was accomplished through the North Charleston consolidation.
correct,
Okay, and there's no proposal to put those 2 specific teachers back in the position, in the budget.
correct. When you look at third and fourth grade, there are 2 classes.
We're gonna
versus-
continue whatever it is you
Yep.
did this year into next year. Okay, you are looking though for 2 special ed teachers?
Correct, one at CPS
Okay,
and one at CMS, due to numbers.
and those are new positions.
Correct.
And then what about interventionists?
We have several different interventionists. Interventionists also fall under Title I, which is a different grant. We have 3 Title I interventionists,
Okay, skip those.
and then we have 3 interventionists that are not currently in the budget.
They're not in the budget. So are there any interventionists next year that are not either in Title I? I mean, is there anything you're moving to the general fund? from a
There-
grant?
Last year, to my recollection, there was a middle school interventionist added to the budget at CMS.
For next year?
This
No.
past year,
Okay,
so last
There's
year,
nothing-
and
there's
it will
nothing-
continue as moving forward.
so in
the
terms of
budget.
grants going away, nothing's flowing into,
Correct, nothing
Okay.
is flowing in from ESSER,
okay, so the only 2 changes you're looking for are 2 sped teachers.
correct.
Okay, now we'll go to Walpole. You already told me you had 2 interventionists.
Through grants.
Okay, and through grants, okay. And then there was, last year, you decided that the math teacher, for lack of a better, was the way to go.
Yep.
And is that being proposed to be put back in the budget in addition to
No,
interventions?
so
No,
when I came with the original plan or discussion was the math teacher and then using as an interventionist for the remaining time. I've taken that back and looked at the current, looking at the middle school model and changing that where we would be able to offer more math by keeping just an interventionist. So the only position that I'm looking to put into the budget is that one interventionist. And we're gonna be looking at changing our middle school model. So that way, it's gonna look very different, but you'll be able to address the concerns that we have with math and the reading through our interventions.
but right now you have 2 interventionists that are grant funded.
Yep.
That won't be grant funded next year,
Correct.
and they're in your general fund budget for next year. No,
One, we're
one,
looking
only
to put
one of
one,
the
that's
2.
the one, instead of the math teacher, I'm looking to just keep the academic interventions.
Okay, that's good clarification.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the high school,
Yeah.
we had 2. I'm sorry, Chris, did you have something to add?
I just wanted to add one thing, because there was one piece that I left out. When you looked at talking about positions and uses of grants, one position did slide when you look at special ed into a program. It's our STEPS program, which is a district-wide program. And that was,
What's the acronym, please?
I don't know if that stands more.
hold on.
Stands for successful, thriving, exceptional, positive students.
Get that?
Let's take it for the record. Thank you, Xandra.
Sure.
Steps is,
Let me say it again.
yes, please.
Successful, thriving, exceptional, positive students.
Thank you.
The reason I bring this up is because we're looking at 2 special ed teachers within Charlestown attendance area. One of the teachers that was currently at CPS slid into that position. We need that person back as full-time in CPS, if that makes sense. So that additional person, when we first started talking about it last year with grants, all district positions that we are adding, like the STEPS program and the focus program, were going to be funded through ESSER. We did not do that in this particular situation. So we're really trying to pull one back into our specific budget, not adding to, if that makes sense.
I think so.
It's kind of,
Well, I got you on the floor though.
Yep.
How many in your budget for next year? Which is only the two buildings now.
Yep.
I think. You have a principal in each building, of course. How many lead teachers in total do you have proposed?
one in each building,
One in each building.
correct?
Okay, and that's what you have now.
Yes.
So that doesn't change either.
Nope.
And whoever the lead teacher had previously been in North Charlestown is just not a lead, well, not the lead teacher anymore. Might be one of your two lead teachers, but they're not three anymore.
There aren't three lead
There's
teachers,
two.
correct?
Okay, 'cause I saw some notes that didn't seem, actually it was from Lori, it said, sorry. My eyes with me now. And on the question two, Lori, it said the secretarial position was eliminated this year through attrition and replaced by 4 new stipends, 2 lead teachers, communication stipend, and club enrichment coordinator. But the 2 lead teachers were there already, right?
So I guess I can't speak to that fully because,
So when the middle school was, reconfigured, they went with grade level teams. And so they have a grade level team leader. So it's not a lead teacher. So lead teacher is acting like a pseudo assistant principal. But they have a team leader for the 5 and 6 team and then a 7, 8 team.
And that's compensated.
That's compensated.
Okay, and the lead teacher?
And the lead teacher.
And the lead teacher is not one of those, so there's 3 compensated positions.
That's correct.
Okay. And what about the primary school?
primary school just has one lead teacher,
Just one lead teacher?
Yes.
There's no team leaders?
correct?
Got it.
I just wanted to follow up on what, so that would be the, I thought 3,600 and change for a lead teacher, and at CMS, it's 8,000 and something, so we're paying 2 people there to be lead.
That's not what I heard.
Christopher,
You said 1.
can you shine any light?
I can't speak directly to how Corey budgeted those positions. It's under the stipend matrix, I believe, so I don't have those answers. All I can speak to is there are 2 lead teachers. I do know that for a fact within the Charlestown Dennis area.
Okay.
There may be additional positions, grade level teams or something along that line in a specific grade level that is not at the primary, it would be more at the middle school level.
Thank you.
And now finally, Sarah,
Yeah.
last year, we cut 2 teachers at the high school. They were positions, they weren't filled at the time, they were vacancies. They're not finding their way back into next year's budget.
I'm asking for a math teacher.
Okay, well, one thing at a time. Those 2 teachers, I don't think either one of them are a math teacher, but,
Oh,
okay, let me do
yes,
it.
one was.
So you are asking for a math teacher.
Correct,
So 1 more teacher than you have currently.
yes.
I don't have these details, so, 1 teacher at the high school. I wasn't sure if that came out or not. And then finally, Sandra, could you for Monday night, just on 1 sheet of paper, here's what you're adding coming out of some of the, ESSER money. You were doing something where you're gonna reduce tuition and take some of the ESSER positions, and one was gonna balance the other. Okay, am I on the right page?
You are on the right
Okay, for Monday night, could we just get on a single piece of paper? Here's how much it'll save, and here's how much it'll cost to save that money.
I can do something right now.
Oh, even better.
I knew that.
It's just my notes, but, I'll mention.
If I can screenshot them.
Yeah.
Because I wanna make a distinction.
See if this is what you're talking
Well, I
about.
want to make a distinction. Your ESSER money coming back in has an offset. It's driving. So it says savings to the district, $493,000, all expenses paid from ESSER grant.
So
no
what
cap.
happened was, the agreement, I went to the school board, and the agreement was we're gonna create the focus program. And the focus program is fifth through eighth grade students who have primarily emotional disturbance, other health impairment, or autism. And then the plan was we're gonna use ESSER funds for this first year to see if it's gonna work. So we agreed to bring 2 students back into the district, so we are savings, I said approximately 100,000, but it really is 98,760.40 per student. We have 3 students that would have gone to out of district, if we didn't have this program. So in total, it's $493,802. That's the savings this year because it was an ESSER. But in actuality, so that's our savings this year. So I think it's successful, let's keep it going. But to make it going, we have 3 positions, a special education teacher and 2 behavior rehabilitative assistants that now need to move from ESSER into the general fund. So what I'm doing is to make that happen, so the expense was $168,104 for staff. And then $115,200 for contracted service. I had a contract for behavior specialist and for a mental health clinician. So that's $283,304. So what I did is I reduced the out of district cost by $300,000. And said we could take that money and offset the cost, that $283,304.
Right.
So the real saving anticipated for fiscal year 25 is gonna be $210,498. Because what I did is I subtracted that off of the 493,802, saying we still have 5 students. I recommend we stay with 5 students for 1 more year because it's a brand new program and we're still figuring this out. But in the future, what could happen is I already have districts asking us if we would take students, and we have to determine what tuition amount would be. We haven't done that yet. And then any other students that we also have another student that might come back to us if we're able. And any other students that would be at this level that would go to a higher intensity level, this is day placement students, would go to this program, and so then we'd save. I just can't tell you what that amount is as of today. And that tuition amount I gave you is for tuition, care assistance, and counseling. So
to wrap it up, whatever you're bringing into the general fund from ESSER.
Yeah.
You're offsetting in tuition and other, I mean, it's.
yeah, I took it.
It's at least a wash,
Yeah.
because it's certainly better to serve the children here than have to ship them out.
Yeah, for me.
So I'm happy if it's a wash.
Yeah, it's a win-win. So I see it as a win for the students and a win for where we're heading. Students stay in their community, which is where I want them to be.
Right.
Their program is at Vilas. It's very successful. They're included in the general education program and they're being supported. And on the other side, it's a financial win for us in the district. Because we're not having to pay these students year after year when they go out of district, and if they go repeatedly, typically when the students come back, they don't come back into our district, they come back into a different program. So it's not just that 1 year, usually once it goes a couple years, they're out of our district till they graduate. And then with the new law, they can stay in school till 22, depending on the level of need. So, I mean, I'm talking about year to year, but if you look at one individual student at 98,760, and then you put in the cost over here, it's substantial, you go to $1 million quickly.
So in the end, it pays for itself.
Yeah.
Maybe, and then some.
I hope so.
And you have taken into account if in fact it's going to reduce any of the, I don't know what it's called now, but the state aid for special education, that you're taking that into account as, because that would go away. Depends on the nature of who you brought back.
So the
The needs of the students that you
state
brought
aid
back.
gets set every year, and it could be like, I think right now it's like 69,700 and something, and anything above that, you get a percentage back.
Right.
So these students, you get some back, but not much.
Right.
We have other students that go out and they cost us much more. They're residential placements or more intensive programs. We get a
That's not what
larger
you're
amount of money back. Those students will continue staying in those programs.
Right.
They have more high intensity needs and cost, I hate to say it this way, but cost benefit, it kind of comes out the same. So, yeah.
So in your case, the ESSER positions are revenue neutral or expense neutral,
Correct.
or perhaps even better.
I think better, but yeah.
Thank you. And you can have your document back. Did you need this back? I'll bring it to you.
Xander, what's your last name?
What's your last?
Reagan. Reagan, yeah.
Can you spell it?
Yeah. REAGA.
Thank you.
Like the president.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Christopher, is that a document that would be useful? Steve, do you feel it'd be useful if that document was sent to the committee?
I guess it would hurt, but I mean, I take the end
If
of
you
the
can
word.
email it?
Yeah, well,
She's come up with a way to.
I think it's also important to note as we're considering our tuition agreements, much of our labor has been on improving our system. And as we improve our system, it will become attractive to more districts that need us, our receiving district. And so that investment will pay off in the long run with just an increase in our enrollment. And that's what I'm working towards, and that's what the administration is working towards, to make this one of the most attractive districts based on our investments.
And a quick question for Lori that's gonna seem a little out of. Unemployment insurance, are we still self-insured?
I believe so,
We're not paying premiums, we're self-insured. Okay, and in this fiscal year, which I know is only half a year old, do you know if we've incurred any claims?
I don't know that we have incurred claims this year.
Haven't incurred claims, so to the extent that we
Don't think so,
displaced, to the extent that we displaced anybody last year, there was enough turnover that everybody found work within the system, if they wanted to. I mean, by evidence by the fact that we have no unemployment claims. Because I want to make sure that we're doing something, we're not taking into account, you know, we got a different cost than if we're incurring unemployment claims, but we're not incurring. Unemployment costs. Okay, good. Good. I think that's what I have.
Thank you, Steve. Any other comments at this time before I ask for a number?
A number?
Steve, just Steve Delesio has a number in mind. I want to give him an opportunity to bring it forward. We can work.
Well, based on our conversation of the 27th, I thought that there was somewhere between 500 and 525,000 that could be eliminated from the budget without impacting programs or anything else, and that's, a lot of that came from an assumption made on the vacancy management.
And it's based on many assumptions.
Many assumptions that were made, which may or may not be valid once we see a final budget and we get a default budget number and we get other numbers. Unfortunately, we're at the end of the tunnel here. And, you know, if we don't get all the information to clear up some of these assumptions, then it's gonna be a, you know, shot in the dark kind of a thing.
Lori?
May I just clarify that each question that's been posed, and I have the number of open positions.
Yes,
The points of confusion regarding the ESER positions that are being cut and the variances there, the changes. And an overview by function, and then the unemployment claims. Those are the questions that I've.
and I would add to that, I would like to see a default budget.
And,
What the
and
default, what that number is. not-
right, but I addressed that,
Whatever the
I
number
need,
is.
I need direction from the board as far as like, are we further reducing by their recommendation,
Yeah.
because that significantly impacts.
Because at the budget hearing, we should have the default budget, right?
Yes,
Yeah, so I
yes,
don't know. Hopefully by Monday we can have something.
but will a response to those questions provide everything that it is that you feel?
I can
you're
only
missing?
state for me, that it'll answer a lot of my questions. I don't know about the other budget matters.
I just wanted to clarify, because you keep saying, lots of missing information, and I just
Well,
want to
that-
make sure that I
yeah,
have everything.
Those questions, for me personally, will answer my questions to be able to make
Okay.
some accurate decisions.
Thank you.
Well. Chris? Jamie?
So I will admit I've not done a default budget in 8 years. And I know the things have changed since I've not done them, or since I've done them. So I'm not understanding what you need in order to do a default budget for us. Cause I think it has to be ready and presented at the budget hearing, correct?
It absolutely does. Any position that we're eliminating gets eliminated from the default budget. One of the things that I consulted with Matt on yesterday was around, the Charlestown, North Charlestown School and what we're proposing to do. So I have my answer on what I need to do for the default budget and how that impacts the default budget. But when I look at last year's budget, I can't just eliminate North Charlestown because the budget that was prepared didn't factor in the consolidation and reconfiguration. So I need to pick that apart. So I am allocating appropriate amounts to CPS and CMS, and I'm only eliminating what I need to eliminate for North Charlestown for building costs and position.
Jamie, can you,
But it doesn't require more information from either of the committee or the board to do a default. Because you already have brought forward a list of positions that you, as the administration building the budget, were gonna cut. You gave us that list. Correct?
Yes. I don't have board direction as to whether we need to reduce it further. We don't have a board budget. We haven't voted on a number from the board.
Right, but the default budget would take into consideration what the administration is suggesting, right? And so
Right,
would
if
you
the board is
just-
asking for more, there's
Well,
more numbers to.
So Monday night, then you need, so, okay, so I don't understand. That's all right. I'll figure it out. Thank you.
thank you, Jamie. Chris Spalding?
You have a question for, whoever the principal at CPS is.
Before, just take a moment, Steve DeLucio, are we all
I'm
clear?
done.
Right, Jamie, we're all clear on that topic?
I'm
now.
good. I think. Yep, sure.
Okay, thanks. Go ahead, Chris.
It says wages sub teachers, 0. And CMS's budget also has the same thing, 0. Is that what you're carrying for next year? At least that's what I'm showing on the one that I have, the budget I have. Yes.
Can I answer? to that?
Sure.
Okay. So, those positions, we have eliminated the permanent sub position, which is hiring an individual that's gonna show up day in and day out, whether or not you need them. When we do that based on a attendance area, they're not, able to rotate throughout the district. When we did our administrative review, the principals for Charlestown and Walpole and the Allsted attendance areas decided that to best meet the needs of the students, we needed to prioritize other positions, and so those positions were eliminated. What I subsequently found out and figured out was that I believe that the substitute lines were under budgeted for this year and were only funded through those positions. Eliminating those positions is eliminating those funds. Those funds, because the positions weren't filled and they were vacant, those funds were available to fund day-to-day subs. But we had, I didn't make that connection until after we had presented version 1.3, and I was trying not to make any other changes. I was trying to be responsible about that.
Oh, so they're in 1.4, the changes?
I didn't make any changes in 1.4 either. The amounts are gone, and in response to questions that were raised, I did respond and answer that question, and I did recommend that we add back some money to cover
Okay.
day-to-day subs, but
But version 1.4 is still the valid version. Okay.
yeah. And the only change between 1.3 and 1.4 was the correction to
Yeah.
I don't remember if it was
Okay.
FICA or if
Yeah.
it was a deduction.
Yeah.
The 70, roughly 73,000,
70,000, yeah.
74,000.
So right now, I'm pointing to Chris behind you.
Okay.
He has no money for substitutes, either in the body of one or more permanent subs or in terms of any casual subs.
Mhm.
Zero sub money.
Yeah, I mean, there were some, other functions that there are smaller amounts for subs, but yeah,
Is that the plan next year? No substitutes whatsoever?
I don't think
Teachers and-
that's the plan. It's we'll have to find the money.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, yes, that's not the plan. 'Cause we do have to have subs. Trying to find subs is incredibly hard.
Yes, it is.
The permanent subs have not been filled in the past, plus we have paraprofessional positions that are IEP driven that are more important than trying to hire a permanent sub. And they kind of fall into the same classification if you would in some categories. The day-to-day stuff, yes, we're gonna have to have subs. Even finding subs this year currently is extremely hard. I can probably count on just my fingers and toes how many times I've had a sub in the building this year. And we've had like any place, a lot of absences, so it has been a struggle.
And keeping apportionment in mind, I mean, I'm okay with that approach. It seems peculiar to me, but I'm okay with it. Keeping apportionment in mind, to the extent that you find the money elsewhere, it will be by attendance area.
I guess this could be our vacancy management, the positions aren't
Well, what I'm
open.
saying is
Yeah.
if the reality is we're going to have some subs, that's what I'm
Mhm.
hearing.
Mhm.
And they're going to be paid for, whether it's vacancy
Mhm.
manager or whatever the case may be, that the finding will be by attendance area.
Mhm.
We're not gonna find money for one attendance area from some other attendance area when we didn't apportion accordingly.
That's my understanding, is that how we
Yeah, that's fine.
operate here
That's
in
fine.
general.
That's fine. I just want, I don't want anybody to lose sight of the apportionment issue.
Yes.
That's all.
The methods, let's not
Chris,
forget.
hold.
Mhm.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, Chris.
And not with another question. Do you have anything on that topic? Christopher?
So I just want to provide context. So one of our shortcomings from an operations standpoint has been our ability to attract and retain those individuals. So it's something that the administration is looking at, and we have to take a deep look at to what extent are we competitive in regards to the sub rate? To what extent are we providing adequate messaging to attract these individuals? So I understand that the vacancy management is an issue, but it's not one that we intend to have persist. We're going to do the work to develop strategies to get these folks here. So the hope is that next year, when we post a position, we know that we can get this position filled and we don't have this issue. So I just want to provide some thoughts there to let you know that it's something that we're looking at.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
Chris?
Yeah, Chris, it says, this would be, Mr. Young, proposed 8,000 for equipment next year. What type of equipment? Just curious. Cause you're up 190%.
So one of the big things that we have looked at for a number of years, is looking at our PE equipment and some of the, options that they can be provided within, physical education class. The big ticket item with that is about a $5,000 climbing wall. That would include all the safety gear. It is something that I have taken out for a number of years. When you look at the overall budget between North, CPS and CMS, we are actually down. That's why I kept it in. This is something that would benefit students moving forward and would have not a lifetime, but a very long expectancy of use.
Okay, may I? Sure. Could this be paid for out of the capital reserve fund?
No.
It's not a building improvement. I don't think that.
I'd say it is. It's hardware attached. Is that what you're talking about?
I consider equipment because it's something that, has some value in it.
On a physical wall?
Correct.
Can this, so
I think the standard would be is it a fixture,
Right, and
right? Okay, put our accountant hats on.
If it's, the point to my question, Chris, if you want to take this out much farther, if it's worth climbing this hill, put it to a warrant article. Yes, it's only $5,000, it's gonna clutter the warrant, but if it can't make it into your budget, and it's important you put it off for years, could this in theory be a capital improvement paid for out of the capital?
I would defer to.
Because personally, and it's a little tangential, but personally, how much money do you have sitting in capital reserve for your school?
200 and something thousand if I.
Close enough.
Again, I would have to defer to.
It's
business administrator.
the point I'm gonna boil down to is that this year we have a number X for a teacher's contract. A number Y for a support staff contract coming through, and where it's getting tight. So when it comes down to a $5,000 climbing wall, we're gonna ask questions.
And I'm completely honest and open when I've sent things. I think when you look at the overall number, there are other lines that have come down and other lines that have gone up. And that happens every year in a zero-based budget. So that was my reasoning for including it this year. Versus other years that it was close, or there were certain materials that need to be purchased for driving student instruction.
Another question? I'm good with that.
Thank you, Chris. Mr. Young.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, this would be for CMS. Activity coordinator wages, does every school have them? And what are they?
That was it's a stipend amount. It was,
It's
something that,
It's the same amount as a lead teacher, that's why I asked, it's 3,671.
Mhm.
So I'm just curious how that number came up, and I didn't notice them in any other school,
Mhm.
except that one, so.
so when Corey proposed not replacing a secretary, and she had the 4 different stipends that were were added in, and that was one of them.
That's.
No, the activity coordinators are your 3, middle school, really athletic directors. But we call them activity coordinators.
Oh, her additional was a co-curricular.
Yeah, hers was co-curricular.
Co-curricular.
So those are your 3 middle school athletic directors, but we don't call them athletic directors. We call them activity coordinators.
There,
And it's on the stipend matrix, but there's one in each one of the 3 middle schools.
I think what Chris is asking is that it looks like an expansion of the stipend matrix amount this year in Charlestown Middle School. Am I correct, Chris? Or we're expanding some stipends, extending some stipends to new people. New stipends, is that what you're talking about?
There were new stipends too.
I would just say this, whatever the title is, activity coordinator, that doesn't read, at least to me, doesn't read athletic director, which I would think would fall under another line, which I believe, Mr. Hardis, if he is the athletic director over there, gets his stipend.
So his official title is activity coordinator.
He's activity coordinator,
That is his
Okay.
official title. That is true.
okay?
Would that be considered broader than athletics director, a broader term?
We have one athletic director in the district, and that's Gordon Dancer.
Okay.
We have
And he's
3
like
activity
third
coordinators.
he's third in line at the high school. He's pretty high up on the chain, right?
I believe so. I'd have to defer to Dr. Edmonds.
He is, yeah, he's an administrator.
Thank you. Mr. Hicks?
Yes, Gordon works as an administrator if we are not in the building.
So just to clarify, Chris, we're clear on what an activities coordinator is. We're getting late in the hour, so
My last question is, there's 2 lead teachers at CMS, where I see everybody else has 1, because the amount is 8,567. I know we're splitting hairs. So are there 2 at Charlestown Middle School, 2 lead teachers?
1.
So then why is the amount not $3,671 like every other school?
We're gonna put that.
I
let's put that to
guess
a
I can try
question
to
that can be
answer
answered
it.
in
It
time.
comes down to, the
The grade level team leaders.
the grade level team leaders.
Splits one of those salaries.
Splits one of those salaries.
The money's there and you use it.
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's under the stipend matrix.
but they split the salary.
No, I was just gonna clarify what they were saying, but they did.
Does that make
Jamie
it
has
clear?
her hand up.
It does. So Kevin, you have the same thing
Gotcha,
at your
Jamie.
school?
I have a lead teacher at the middle school and I've got activities coordinator.
How about Justin?
I have an activities coordinator and then I have a lead teacher at each building. But
At each building?
so for my middle school, it's 3 lead teachers that split that 1 stipend though. It's not the 3, whatever it is.
Yeah, that's
Because
fine.
there's different responsibilities. That's how we do it. Same thing with North Walpole. It has 2 that splits the 1 stipend. And primary has 1.
Jamie?
I just have a,
You're on mute.
Jesus, okay, is that better? I'll
Yeah.
try not to swear at my screen. I hit the button like 4 times. I just want to add to my request. While you all were talking, it dawned on me that we got on the list, one of the ESSER ad lists, there was and we talked about this at the last meeting, there was a list of positions that were being cut that the administration had put up for removal out of the budget. And so I would ask if we could get the dollar amounts that are associated with those cuts, and how many of the positions are currently filled. Because I think that's relevant. I mean, I'm sitting here listening to us say, we're not going to have any money in there for subs, and yet we can't ever get any subs. But I think we had perm subs that we just cut that actually have bodies in them. So that to me is kind of backwards. So I'd be curious about that information. Thank you.
Can I speak on that?
Yes.
So the permanent sub positions, one of the reasons why, because I'll speak for Walpole, we have 2 permanent subs. The thought process behind that is that you're taking away that permanent sub position, but they can still go in and assign themselves to those positions each and every day if they choose. Then it's also district-wide, because currently, when there's days that we don't need subs, they're still in the building, you're still paying them, you're still with benefits and everything. So this was one way that we were looking at it, so that it's at least detrimental to students. And then with the other attendance areas, their positions weren't covered for years is what they were told.
So we don't have district-wide subs anymore? We used to have district-wide subs that moved everywhere.
You have, you want me to speak now? Okay, you have regular subs that can just sign up and they choose their certain areas that they want to be in.
No, I get
but they
that.
have to-
I understand that. I understand how that works.
Yes.
District-wide.
We don't have district-wide.
You don't have
subs.
district-wide perm subs? Okay, well, that got cut at some point in the lifetime then of me being gone. We used to have district-wide perm subs.
And it's
So
turned into.
do you have money then, but so where they were cut, because they didn't cut them everywhere, but where they were cut then, did you put money back in for the occasional subs?
Yeah, that's what I was saying is that, I realized that we were under, budgeted for the subs this year. And our vacancies have been covering the cost for day-to-day subs.
Okay.
So when we eliminated the positions, I didn't realize at the time that there wasn't additional money in there for the day-to-day subs. But I didn't want to make any additional changes to the budget.
So, okay, so, and we don't have district-wide perm subs. Okay, all right. Thank you.
Can I just clarify? So right now, we're going off of version 1.4, and that's our bottom line budget for, we're still at 1.4, the one that you put on the chart.
And to further clarify the number. 34,832,144. We're all working on the same number?
What was the number, Dave? 34?
Lori, if you can double check me,
Yeah, no, I'm trying to pull it up.
one
I
moment.
haven't made any more changes, so.
This is
Other than that
the
reduction.
grand total of version 1.4. And I'll give you my whole line across. FY 24 appropriated,
So if you're wanting me to verify, I'm trying to pull it up.
okay. I trust that I wrote them down correctly, so.
Okay.
FY 24 appropriated 33,000,493. FY 25 proposed, this is the number that we're working with in version 1.4. 34,832,144. For a difference of 1,831,651.
Can you repeat that, Gabe?
1,831,651.
That's not
Maybe.
what's gonna be, that isn't what will be put on all of the documents because of the other warrant articles that were passed last year that were removed from that number, from the FY 24 number. So Gabe, that was my point. The budget, when we discussed it, the 34,832,144 is the correct dollar amount of what's being proposed for 25. That is correct.
Yeah.
But the
Okay.
increase when you have to do the reporting, the requirement by law is that you have to report the whole total budget from the prior year. So that's going to be a larger number, which is going to make our total increase like, I think it's 900 and it's just under 900,000. It's in our minutes. We talked about it.
Lori?
So I don't know if this is a question for you with this body or not. So I just want to clarify that my first presentation, the version 1.3, was in accordance to law and did include those warrant articles. And then based on, well, we're not comparing apples to apples, I changed the prior year column per the request and the guidance. So that is why there is a difference. I just want to make that clarification. So when I do the reports, it will of course be according to law, but I made a change for discussion
Could you,
per request.
I got that. What did you adjust out from 24?
From version 1.3 to 1.4?
Yeah, just
The-
those types of items.
Those, the warrant articles, the special warrant
All the
articles that get
special
added
warrants.
into the budget, those were removed. And then again, the 74-ish thousand
And
that we keep
Were
referring to.
all of those special warrant articles from a capital reserve fund?
Yes,
They were, okay.
One was a surplus, wasn't it?
Well, and one being the surplus, yeah.
yeah,
okay.
the 500, yes,
So they all had a source of funds.
yes, yes.
So in terms of being up $1.8 million, we're up $1.8 million that doesn't have a source of funds. We on the same page, Jamie?
That's true. And that's why the discussion was had where she removed them because it was probably two or three of us, because you pointed it out, I think, and I agreed. And I said, you're right, because these other special warrant articles had revenues that were added in as well. So they didn't affect tax assessment. So Lori said, you're right. She agreed. She's an accountant. She knows how it works. She said, you're right. So when she put out the last version, based on our discussion, she pulled those out. But I know at our last meeting, some of the folks, Lori, went, whoa, what happened? The budget's wicked. It just doubled, right? And so, or went up. Right.
You know.
Right. And so that's why I just wanted to point it out tonight, with you here to vet that is true, because those items were taken out. So to Steve's point, though, it skews what you're looking at as when you're saying how much are we increasing our base spending by? You're increasing your base spending by just over 5%, which is that number. That's true. But when you do it because our laws tell us we have to show everything that was, paid out and budgeted, it's going to make that number go back down.
As built, it is up 999,722, 2.95%.
Just about, it's going to be give or take a few dollars. That's what we had come up with. Lori's going to post that overview for us.
That number again for the record?
I don't know if it's exactly correct. It was done based on the prior year's numbers. Okay.
And I'll say it's taken from my December 27th notes.
Okay.
As built, it is up, it being the budget, is up 999,722. 999,722 equals 2.95% increase. From there, I'd like to steer the discussion a little bit. We have numbers in mind to reduce. Are we in a position to get out of here by 9 o'clock where we could come up with a number, or is that not tonight?
Well, I think Steve, unless I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you said that you wanted that, try to get some information, some questions answered so that you can make, more confident decisions. So I don't know if we're gonna walk out of here with a number.
All right, I'll buy that, Steve.
I would agree with that. Roughly, district-wide, I know it varies by town. We're at about a 16% tax hike. Ballpark.
I think that there were some towns that were that.
Well, it's one town that's at 25, but I think overall we were around 16. And I know I just got my tax bill, it was down $7. So it was flat. So, if we're flat one year and then we're up 16 the next year, that's the equivalent of 2 8s. 2 8% hikes, except they'll load it all into 1 year. So I just wanted to quantify that. That's effectively what we're looking at is the equivalent of 2 8% hikes, except spread over 1 year instead of 2.
And if we can consider managing the ESSER cliff with a 2 8% hikes over the past 2 years, it doesn't look so bad. We're going over the cliff anyway.
From my point of view,
Christopher?
the cliff was somewhat self-imposed, so self-inflicted, so.
I just had a question just for my thinking, just like clarity. I know that it was proposed. I think, Steve, you might have mentioned you're looking at a reduction in amount of 537,000. And you said we could achieve this with methods least destructive to the system. Where do you think that money would come from, or where would you recommend that those monies come from?
Well, we have to talk here because we had some FTE questions in our last discussion, but from my perspective, I think that vacancy, last year we took $150,000 out of the budget for vacancy management, and we returned $1.2 million to the voters. And because we couldn't fill, mostly because we couldn't fill positions, right? So I think we can get at least 200,000 of that without knowing how many bodies how many open positions there really are. We can get a considerable amount of money if we're smart in the way we schedule it and do things. I also think there's probably easily another 50 to 60,000 in just deep dive, looking at small increments and changes all over the budget. Like I said, when one director said, I just increased everything 5% without really doing a deep dive into his own budget, I have to believe there's money there. It's been my experience that the other thing that we've always done is return 500,000 in capital or money every year. So there's always money in the budget somewhere.
And can I just follow up?
I'm gonna move to Jamie next.
Okay.
Yeah, Jamie.
I would defer, Gabe, to the superintendent. I can wait.
Thank you, Christopher.
Just quick math, I think you got us down to there's about $300,000 variance remaining that we would need to account for. So does committee have a recommendation as to where those monies would come from? If we do the 200,000 in vacancy management, another 50 somewhere,
Yeah.
30, so where does the 300? Just for I just wanna make sure my thinking is right
Yeah.
as we go back to have the
We don't-
discussions.
Because we don't make those decisions, you
If you
know.
were to
it-
recommend.
Yeah, but I guess
If you wanna
for
recommend.
to my mind, and speaking only for myself, I'm uncomfortable with ESER positions, with the exception of Xander's, because that we talked about. ESER positions finding their way into the general fund. So I would be uncomfortable supporting a motion of let's cut $500,000 without identifying just exactly one path that, because we don't get to make the decision. You know, we don't get to say, this is how you do it. We only get to say, you're gonna have to make do with less money. But I think it's irresponsible to say, cut $500,000, you figure it out. We did that 10 years ago, right? Jamie, except it was twice that amount. And it was wrong then and it's wrong now. We should have at least a suggested path as to where it could come from, knowing full well it's that you and the school board may take a completely different path than the one we suggested. So, you know, not in support of Steve's number, but I would say with the exception of Xander's positions, anything that was in the ESSER, I mean, the ESSER grant is going away, and the expenses associated with the ESSER grant in theory should go away. To the extent that you want to retain some of them, that's fine, that's your prerogative. But you'll have to figure out what else you can do differently in order to retain those positions. That's the way I would look at it.
And if I could, Kate, and I'd like to thank Jamie, because I think Jamie made note last meeting that there was a considerable amount of labor applied to reducing other areas of the organization to account for the ESSER positions to which we want to be absorbed. But it brings me back to the recommendation at some point, once you have all the information, if you could tell the administration, what is the budget committee's recommendation for the
Absolutely.
$300,000 that we would need to then look at it, and then we'll do our work to see to what extent is this possible, least disruptive to the system, with guidance from the school board, of course.
Absolutely.
Take
Yeah.
Gabe's,
That's
And that-
agreed.
Gabe's point from earlier. Remember the number you put out there? 13.1?
Well, and
Go ahead,
we
I'm
were,
sorry.
I think, and that's what we did, right? That's what we did last year. We would wanna come back and have that conversation and then present that back and we wanna make sure too that we're all on the same page because we want, it's important to try to all be on the same page when we're making these type of recommendations, or at least if we're not all on the same page, then we want to be able to show that to.
I appreciate that.
That's where we're at. I mean, I don't think we've all agreed yet either,
Right.
so.
When you had that chart that showed us and 16 other districts that were just simply plus or minus 300 our size to make them comparable. And then I think Lori and you got together and came up with some other data only for the most recent year to try and, I don't want to say justify, but maybe explain some of that. Yes, we have 11 buildings, but we had 11 buildings 15 years ago, so that's not a factor. The one thing that stood out that I saw was our 13.1 average class size is the lowest of the 17. And it can't go unnoticed that Bo's highest number of 19.5 also has them dead last on the list in average cost per student. They're functioning on $6.7 million a year less than we are to educate an equivalent number of children. And I gotta believe a lot of that's the difference between 19 and a half children in the classroom, which I think is respectable for public education. I don't support 25 or 30, even though in my childhood, that's what I went through. I agree that those days are gone. But I do think 20, especially for a district such as ours, that's well below average district in terms of property wealth. 20 in the classroom is not unreasonable. We're not gonna get there all in 1 year. It has to be a process to get there. But I think that's a large reason why Bo is bottom on the list. And I don't know what they have for income, but we pay for taxes in New Hampshire, property taxes. And I can tell you from the state report, our average property, our equalized valuation per child here at Ball Mountain is 1,041,000. And in Bow, it's 1,088,000. They have the same tax base that we have. The state average is about 1.5 million. Neither one of us are remotely close to that. And I don't know what their average income is relative to our average income, but apparently it's not translating into property wealth. We and Bow have almost the same property wealth. And that's what gets taxed to fund education. And yet somehow they're doing it with 6.8 million, $6.7 million less than we are, and producing better test scores than we are. And that's right off of your own data feed.
Now, I gotta contextualize that. So I'm gonna put your training as an accountant, my training's as a qualitative researcher. So when I'm looking at this thing, I'm looking at all the variables. And so when we look at, we're comparing apples to apples, we have to make sure whenever a researcher produces a report, the first thing we do is attack the methodology to make sure that in that model, whether it's the statistical model it is, whether it's sample size, variables, income, family, makeup, whatever it is, we need to make sure that this variable is being explained by similar factors. So the sheet was there to create the full picture, but I don't discount what you're saying, and you know that because we've had conversations about this. But to get there, we all, as a community, have to develop an understanding of what does the system look like from a planning standpoint, with everything that each one of you said. I don't think the questions are invalid. I don't think the questions come without merit, but it's only one slice of the pie, and we need to put the full picture together to say, what does this look like? If we're gonna go after class size, well, what does that look like and in what ways? So I'm not discounting what you're saying,
Yeah.
Steve. I'm just saying, I gotta look at the other stuff too.
The one thing that chart says to me more than anything else, or the one question it begs, is that 15 years ago, we were in the 10th position of 17 school districts, a little more than state average still, but in the 10th position. 15 years later, somehow, we've escalated from 10th to 2nd. And then we look at, we say, well, we lost about 450 students. Well, every town on that list lost some students. Now, I will acknowledge, Bow lost all of 20, which probably explains why they got from 9th, because they used to be 9th. Now they're dead last, they're 17th. However, Monadnock lost over 700 students. And they used to be 4th, and now they're 7th. While we went from 10th to 2nd. Something's wrong here. I don't necessarily know what it is, but I'm pretty good. My background is not accounting, it's finance. Accountants count, finance people tell you what the numbers mean. And something's wrong when you go from 10th to 2nd in 15 years. I don't know what's wrong, but something isn't right. We've become extremely cost inefficient.
Right.
And you talked before about we're not a business, and you're absolutely right, we're not a business, but you drew some parallels. Let me ask this question, whether you call it mission, vision, goal, whatever. We're spending $35 million a year here. What do you see as the end product? I hate to call it a product, but you know what I mean. What do you see as the end product? Because what I see as the end product is that we produce a well-rounded graduate ready for his or her glide path into society and can be at least economically sustainable. We hear the word sustainable a lot today as it relates to the environment. But what about economic sustainability? Can this child go into adulthood and at least be able to carry his own weight? Not be rich, not even be middle class necessarily, just be self-sustaining. To me, that's an important goal. Because who's going to pay property taxes for the next generation if this generation doesn't achieve that? And we're spending an awful lot of it. We're spending number 2 out of 17 ranked money, and we're not producing number 2 out of 17 achievement. And it's astonishing to me that Bow is outperforming us, and they're all the way at the bottom. Something wrong with this picture.
Can I also state this for the viewing audience? Steve and I had these conversations at length over coffee, so this is not.
No,
It's not a contentious environment.
No, I kind of wanted to get out.
So we talk about this over philosophy. It's a philosophy, but the questions that are being asked are important to when we develop our strategic plan, because my intention here is to move the district forward. So as we sit down, these questions, we will need to flesh these out, these conceptual, larger philosophical questions, and develop a plan forward that addresses those concerns. So we'll get together more and we'll philosophize and talk about these things, but I want to be respectful of this time.
Yes.
Jamie had her hand raised. I don't know if she still does.
Jamie, do you still have a point? We're gonna start wrapping it up. You're
I'm
welcome to
wrapping
take-
it up. I'm gonna wrap it up because I haven't gotten a lot of sleep in 3 days doing budgets. Anyway,
take us
I
home.
think it's important for us to remember that a budget, that the tax rate is not only determined on an expenditure amount, right? So the other side of that is the projected revenues. And it's something that we rarely ever focus on at Fall Mountain, and I think it's an important piece. So that when we start looking at what do we think the tax rates are gonna be when we project it, and I know it's not a comfortable place to be, Lori, trust me, we're gonna have to try to do a projection of what we think the actual surplus against assessment is gonna be, because that's gonna be really important this year when we start rolling out these kind of increases.
Agreed.
Oh,
you.
by the way, I don't live in Langdon, but I'd sure like to know why my taxes were going up 25% in Langdon if I lived in Langdon.
I think you're gonna see that changes because that was prior to some of the items being moved into method 1 or 6 that she's now moved back, but we just haven't been able to redo the tax projections. So I think that's gonna smooth out a little.
Okay. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everyone for joining us tonight, and on Zoom as well. Thanks for tuning in, and, this will be made available on what, YouTube, Brendan?
Correct. Link on the district website tomorrow.
There'll be a link on the district website tomorrow, where this meeting can be viewed. I'd like to thank Brendan for recording and running all the tech. Thank you tonight, Brendan. Is there anything else to come before this meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Michael. You got it.
Well,
Oh,
wait, well-
okay. Oh,
So right now, these meeting minutes are 4,873 words. They'll be trimmed down. But this will be my last day as secretary. So someone else will put the minutes from here on out for my carpal tunnel state.
well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Go by roll call vote. All those in favor of adjourning, Jamie?
Teague, yes.
Aaron, yes.
JP, yes.
St. Pierre, yes?
Spalding, yes.
Morone, yes.
Alessio, yes.
Oh, yes.
Thank you all for your time.